What's going on, everybody? And I hope you're enjoying your Saturday early afternoon. This is NYG Jeffy T 85 here. And obviously all the news that went around the New York Mets this offseason was about all the players that they brought in and players that they re-signed. Obviously some of the bigger names they brought in, Kodai Senga, Justin Verlander, to name a couple. Some of the players that they brought back or re-signed, Brandon Nimmo, Edwin Diaz, to name a couple. But the biggest news around the New York Mets was all about Carlos Correa, because of the fact that he signed a deal after spurning the Giants, and then he signed that deal with the Mets, but then the physical came up, that something was wrong with his ankle, that he had surgery on all the way back in 2015. Then obviously we saw what happened the past 3 weeks, and then about a week and a half ago, Carlos Correa ended up spurning the Mets, if you want to call it spurning, but he ended up back to the Minnesota Twins on a long-term deal. And what that did is it opened up some discussions and an opportunity for a guy that I've been talking about all offseason that got an opportunity at the end of this past season before, unfortunately, he got injured and had to miss the rest of the season due to a wrist injury. And that, of course, is the young 23-year-old, 6'3", left-handed hitter, Brett Baty. Brett Baty is that guy that I expect to get a very fair shake to not only compete, but snatch and pretty much lock in that third base job for the New York Mets. We haven't had a third baseman with this highly regarded since David Wright. Brett Baty has got a nice, sweet swing to him. He's a solid defensive player that he's going to still continue to work on his defense in spring training. He is a guy that should deserve the opportunity to go out there and show what he can do for this New York Mets team. And I made a video about this a little earlier on in the year, about Brett Baty. In fact, Baty played pretty much in between Binghamton before he got called up to the New York Mets roster overall. He actually played in Binghamton and Syracuse in 2022 before he got called up with the Mets. He played in 89 games overall with the Binghamton Mets. And he had 106 hits with 73 runs. He had 19 home runs with 59 RBIs and a .312 batting average, with a 406 on base percentage, a 544 slugging percentage, and a .950 OPS. Before he got called up to Triple-A Syracuse with the Mets, where he played in 6 games, and he had 22 at-bats with 3 runs scored, 8 hits. He didn't register a home run. He had 1 RBI. He had a .364 batting average, means he was hitting the hell out of the ball. A .462 on-base percentage, a .364 slugging percentage, and an .825 OPS. Only played in 6 games before the New York Mets said, you know what, we're going to call this kid up and we're going to let him man the hot corner. Because that's a time when Eduardo Escobar was struggling at third base. Jeff McNeil was pretty much settling in as the New York Mets second baseman at the time. And the Mets were just trying to find who could be able to take care of the hot corner on this baseball team for the remainder of 2022. And immediately, during that series against the Atlanta Braves, the first at-bat he had, Brett Baty launched a home run over the fence. Now, he did struggle a little bit. He played overall with the New York Mets in 11 games. We had 38 at-bats. He scored 4 runs. He had 7 hits. He also had 2 home runs and 5 RBIs. He had 2 walks. Only had 2. He had never stole a base or got caught stealing. He had a .184 batting average in those 11 games, with a .244 on-base percentage, a .342 slugging percentage, and a .586 OPS. But he was a rookie at the time, still developing the rest of his game as well. But this kid's got a good swing. He does. This kid might, I don't know how much he's going to give us in terms of the power department. I think he's more of just a very good hitter overall, where he's going to put that ball into play, even though he has hit 19 home runs in Double-A. And he's also been a guy that's he's also hit 12 home runs in Single-A. But I think he's just one of those types of hitters that's going to put the ball in play, spray the ball all around the outfield and the infield. I really believe that Brett Baty is going to come onto this New York Mets team and he's going to make a difference in his first full season. And in my opinion, because the fact that you have both Eduardo Escobar as a bench player, I really believe, in my opinion, and Jeff McNeil's going to be playing second base. I like Luis Guillorme, but Guillorme to me is one of those super sub guys to come off the bench, maybe play at least once or twice, maybe 3 times a week. But at this time, I would not have anybody take that spot but Brett Baty. And I said the same thing about the catcher's position, but it sounds like the New York Mets, just by what they've done in the offseason, that they signed Omar Narvaez from the Milwaukee Brewers, and they also re-signed Tomas Nido. It sounds like that the Mets are going to allow Francisco Alvarez, their top prospect, to be able to stay in the minor leagues and continue to develop his defensive side of the game, as well as become a more overall better hitter. But Brett Baty, to me, when the whole Carlos Correa situation unfolded the way it did, and when Correa decided to go re-sign with the Minnesota Twins, my first thing that popped in my head is, this is Brett Baty's position to lose. No disrespect to Eduardo Escobar, but Brett Baty should get the opportunity to play third base. Give that kid a chance to go out there and grab, pretty much grip onto that third base job and let him not let it go. Escobar is one of those do-it-all players that can go and play any position. But when the Major League Baseball season starts for the New York Mets, I want Brett Baty as my starting third baseman at the hot corner, to go along with Francisco Lindor at shortstop, Jeff McNeil at second base, and Pete Alonso at first base. That's how I would play it. If I was greedy and I had my way, I'd have Francisco Alvarez starting at catcher. The Mets have been so reluctant to let their prospects go that I expect Brett Baty to get a fair opportunity to take that third base job. Because like I said, Escobar is a nice player, but Brett Baty is the guy that brings you a lot more on this baseball team than Escobar will. So I want Brett Baty as my starting third baseman, and let that kid go out there and rake. Let him go out there and show what he can do on the baseball diamond. Period. The kid's got a hell of a lot of talent. Let him go out there and showcase it. Let him go out there and showcase it. Don't just take it away from him. I want to see Brett Baty out there as my starting third baseman by the beginning of the season. Will he get it? I would not be shocked if the Mets start out with Guillorme or Escobar at third base, and they have Brett Baty start in the minors as well. Let him refine his stroke, swing a little bit better, become a better overall defensive player, even though I think he's not bad already. And then they're probably going to ride with the veterans at first, but that's what I would do. But you guys let me know in the comment section what you think. If you believe that Brett Baty is just about ready to take reins of that third base spot now that Carlos Correa is back in Minnesota. And if you would want to see Brett Baty at third base. So hit that like button. Smash the like button if you haven't already. Sub up to NYGJeffyT85 where you're going to get more news, updates, and chatter surrounding the New York Mets. As well as turn that bell on for notifications on when the next video or short will drop on the channel around the New York Mets. And like I mentioned, let me know in the comment section if you do believe that Brett Baty should not only be starting for the New York Mets at third base, but he should pretty much be the guy at the hot corner for the New York Mets in the 2023 Major League Baseball season. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Take it easy, and let's go New York Mets. As always, all you got to do is you got to believe in those boys from Queens.